Yeah, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends of the Munich AI lecture series, dear researchers, students, guests. It's an honor for me and a pleasure to welcome you to another evening in this very excellent series, the Munich AI lectures. We have the great pleasure to have Professor Virginia Dignum here from Umeå University. That was my hardest part, so I'm happy with that. I think I don't have to introduce her, and Jerzy Krasniewski will do this after myself, but she is really one of the experts in AI and ethics in AI and in AI governance and AI systems that are so groundbreaking now for everything that we do and that we are going to do. And I'm really happy to hear you, to hear from you, to discuss with you, and I'm sure that you will inspire us to use AI in the right way, basically. Yeah. So there's also an online transmission going on, a live stream with many people there as well. So hi also to you all across Munich and the world, hopefully. And my first thank you goes to the Bavarian Academy of the Sciences and the Arts. That's the house we are in, the Munich residence, the former castle of the Munich, the Bavarian kings. Professor Schweiger, president, is not here, unfortunately, but the Deputy Secretary General, Johannes Bernwieser, he is here. So thank you that we can be here in this beautiful room and that we can meet in person. It's still a blessing, I think, these days where we have somehow overcome the COVID crisis, but still we are in those Teams and Zoom meetings all day long, and it's really a blessing to meet people in person and to have live discussions. And sorry, dear people in the online stream, we will also have a reception afterwards and enjoy this exchange on this very crucial topic. My name is Michael Klimke. I'm the Managing Director of the Bavarian AI Agency, and our job is given by the Bavarian state government to promote AI in Bavaria on the research side, but also on the innovation side, on the business side. And it's the brand name for the Bavarian AI network is Biosphere, as you can see. It's a very nice name if you know how to pronounce it. So there's Bavaria in it, there's AI in it, and there's a big sphere. And I'm really proud to say, and for those who do not know, that Bavaria is investing heavily in this network to the high-tech agenda, more than 600 million euros in more than 100 new professorships, more than 1,000 new study places in AI-related programs. There have been many research centers been founded in Bavaria, the Munich Center for Machine Learning, for example, at LMU and TUM, or the Munich Institute of Robotics and Machine Intelligence, the Konrad Zuse School of Excellence for Reliable AI. So there's pretty much going on all across the Bavarian state, and I'm happy that some of you who are researchers or students have come here to this place. Also on the infrastructure side, there is quite a lot going on in Erlangen. In the supercomputing center, they have just installed 800 new GPUs, not 800,000 unfortunately, but 800 at least, and there will be 1,000 more coming in the framework of the Bavarian Foundation Model Initiative. The LRC, Leibniz Supercomputing Center in Munich, also part of the Bavarian Academy of Sciences and the Arts, they have just announced that a new supercomputer will be coming, the Blue Lion computer, which will increase the capacity and the velocity and everything by the factor of 30 compared to the current SuperMUC NG computer. And Bavaria has also turned in an application for the Gigafactories initiative by the European Union. I hope it's a very successful one because it's backed by industry, and when this will be successful, there's a chance that there might be another 100,000 AI chips coming to Bavaria. We're also proud that a lot is happening in responsible AI. For example, the Ministry of Digital Affairs has launched a program which is called AI Accelerator. Together with Applied AI Institute, they are helping SMEs, companies, to really act according to the AI Act and to also introduce AI in their processes and in their products in a way that suits the AI Act. There's a project called GAIN on responsible and sustainable regulation-ready AI infrastructure and also software. It's a project between TUM and LMU and also the Technical University of Dresden. And there's, for example, the Center of Responsible AI Technologies at TUM, LMU, and Augsburg, I think, and other universities, where ethics, law, human values in AI research are being the topic. So this is the framework, the biosphere, the network. What is the Munich AI Lectures? As I said, this series was installed and established to really bring excellent representatives from academia in this field to Munich. Virginia will be your host and speaker tonight. We had Jan Lequin here, Daniela Roos, and there will be Joshua Benjo coming in October also. And the idea is to inspire you, the audience, also the young people here, the doctoral researchers, the students. Great that you are here, that you can get to know to Virginia, but also to engage in critical reflections and in dialogue. It's a series of lectures. You can see the partners here on this slide. It's really the outstanding AI institutions in Munich in the academic field, universities, but also Helmholtz, the Bavarian Institute of Digital Transformation institutes. You can see their logos there. So thanks for the partners for also making this possible, that we can have this series over here. And with this, I want to conclude my introduction, my welcome. Great that you are here. And I would like to ask Professor Jerzy Krasniewski on stage. He's a professor at TUM, and he knows what he's speaking about when he says, when he talks about ethics and AI and transparency and fairness, because this is also your field, and you are also the one who knows Virginia, and I'm sure that you're going to introduce her in the right and appropriate way. So thank you very much for coming here, and Professor Krasniewski, this is your floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Michel. Thank you. All right, so thank you, Michel. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. So, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, dear researchers, dear students, dear audience, I would say, of interested people who are interested in our Munich AI series, AI lecture series. I guess many of you have probably heard about the famous quote by Arthur C. Clarke. When technology becomes sufficiently advanced, it is indistinguishable from magic. And I guess it has never felt more fitting than today. So we have AI systems that outperform humans in many areas, from gaming to medical diagnosis, that generate realistic images from text, that can write code, and even mimic human voice with incredible precision. So in many ways, AI feels today more advanced than what we have seen in many world-class movies about how AI could look in the future. So for all this power that I'm describing, much of AI remains still a black box. And questions around interpretability, around fairness, are still some of the most challenging questions that we're dealing with in research. So we know that AI can amplify human potential, but at the same time, it can amplify a lot of our biases. We know that self-supervised optimization, which is the main technique for training such systems and models, has also some limitations. So for example, we cannot say which goals the AI is internally pursuing, really. And who gets to decide about these goals? This is the real question that we have to address for the future. So it's not so much about what AI can do, but how AI should do this and who will benefit from that, right? And I guess this will be one of the aspects that we'll discuss today as well. Now, it's my great honor to introduce Professor Virginia Dignum, one of the world's foremost voices in responsible AI. She is professor at Umeå University, as we heard, in Sweden, and leads the AI Policy Lab. She advises the Wallenberg Foundations on AI policy and chairs the ACM Technology Policy Council. She also co-chairs the World Economic Forum's Global Future Council on AI. And as if this wouldn't be enough, she is a fellow and founder of many initiatives, leading initiatives in Europe around responsible and trustworthy AI, such as Your AI, Alice, All AI, all these leading initiatives. So, from my point of view, Professor Dignum really combines deep technical insight with a very strong commitment to ethics, governance, and societal impact. And her work often invites us to rethink and to think deeply about how we develop, deploy, and regulate intelligent systems, so that they really are deployed for the benefit of society, they remain transparent, fair, and aligned with human values. I think we'll hear a lot about these aspects in your talk. I'm really looking very much forward to it, and please join me in welcoming Professor Virginia Dignum. Thank you so much. It's very pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. My German is very bad, so I will not try even to say hello or good afternoon in German, but I'm very happy to be here. It's my honor to participate in this very interesting and very relevant series of talks. And maybe we can change the slide to my presentation. So, talking about responsibility in AI is, of course, starting by talking about what AI is not, and what is our role on what we are developing. There is hardly any person or any day in which we don't hear about developments in AI in the newspapers, from colleagues, from all of us. If probably I ask you who has not used AI today, there will be only very few of you that have not used AI, even maybe in ways that you don't really realize that you are using AI, but it's really being underneath a lot of the activities, a lot of the issues, a lot of the functions that we do every day. And the feeling is that we need more. And just in the introduction, and all of us in Europe and otherwise, we all are going for the idea we need more chips, we need more computational power, we need more data, we need the European giga AI factories in our region, so we need more. And the idea is that by having more, we will have better AI. Which might very well be, but at the same time, we need to look at what this more really means in terms of the impact and the consequences of having more. Just starting with the data. More data. Data at this moment, and this is an image from the Mozilla Internet Fund report of 2022, data is not, the world that AI sees is not the world in which we live. The AI sees a world that is extremely distorted, and even if where we live, the European region, and there looks like there is a lot of AI, it also doesn't represent all of us equally. Some groups, some demographics, some communities, even within those blue regions, are much less represented than others. This image is from 2022. I don't have more recent images, at least comparable, but if anything, today the world is even more distorted than what is there. So we need to look at more data also from the consequences of what is this data representing, and what, more importantly, who is not part of the data that AI has to reason about or to take decisions about. If you are not in the data, you are also not probably in the decisions and the conclusions. Now about computing power. Of course we need computing power, and the computing power is important and relevant, but it doesn't come for free. It comes with choice. The choice for how we are using our energy, how are we using our water, how are we using all types of natural resources, but also how are we using our money. What we invest in AI, we are probably not investing in other sectors and in other problems. These choices don't need to be always one direction or another, but we need to look and understand what we are choosing for, and again, what we are not choosing for. And also at the same time, really start in a strong and structured way, addressing the issues of the consumption of resources that come with the computing power that we need for AI. Water that goes into AI will not go somewhere else. Energy which goes into AI will not go somewhere else. And even if we make it all sustainable and energy neutral, it is choices that we are making. And finally, the computing power. Indeed, we are generating and building algorithms that are every time more powerful, more able, more strong, coming with applications and choices and decisions that just a couple of years or a couple of months ago we would not be thinking possible. But at the same time, due to the choices that we make, due to the data that we have, these algorithms are not neutral. They come with choices that benefit many, but might not really benefit others. And with the powerfulness of algorithms, we are also seeing the power of the impact that these algorithms have in our societies, in our structures, in our lives of all of us. So, looking at AI from the perspective of the impact of these systems means that we need to take human responsibility. And just in the introduction, Jordi talked about the black box. Yes, for increasingly or for a large part, the algorithms that we are using are not fully understood, even by those that develop the algorithms. Which means that we are using systems, we are using applications that make a lot of powerful decisions, but we don't really fully understand what is behind the box, inside the box. Which means, at the end of the day, that we are responsible for using these algorithms. If we cannot really fully understand them and fully guarantee what comes out of these algorithms, then if anything else, our responsibility is even higher. No one of us would really like to get into a new type of airplane where people tell us at the door of the airplane, this is new, it's a great airplane and it's really the best what we have. We don't really understand how this works, but don't worry, we will fly it and we'll get somewhere, and if any problems come during the flight, we will fix it as we go. It's what we are doing with AI. So the responsibility is even bigger than with any other systems that we can control and define. It starts by understanding that AI is not intelligent in the same way that we consider each one of us to be intelligent. The ways that these systems work, and I will not go into technical details at all, but the way that these systems work are very different from the way that we make decisions. It is also important to realize that for the system manipulates data, manipulates vectors, manipulates numbers at the end of the day. It is impossible, at least with the tools that we have now, to make these systems being able to distinguish what is possible, what is impossible, what is right, what is wrong, what is true, what is false. And even though we can and the results that we get by interaction, and especially with the generative AI systems, are extremely impressive. They need to be taken more as a plausible answer than the truth answer. So they are different in the way they are intelligent. And that is not bad. It's actually good, because if we are creating the same intelligence as what we have, we are not really creating probably the tools that we need to build and to extend our own capabilities. So it's important to understand it is different, and it's not necessarily bad that it is different. AI is also not just artificial. There is no AI system that works without humans providing, from the design of it, to the data that is involved, to maintaining and checking what's coming, and reinforcing or deciding on what is correct and should be presented to the users or no. And at the same time, like I said, it also uses natural resources that we could use for something else. So it's not purely artificial, it's not purely virtual, and it's definitely different from us in terms of intelligence. The fact that these systems manipulate language in the ways that are close or indistinguishable from how we manipulate and interact through language with each other doesn't really give us a proxy or a replacement for intelligence. So given all this, can we be responsible? What do we mean when we talk about responsible AI? What do we mean when we talk about the governance of these systems? And what can we do about it? It starts going back to the idea of the magic, that this any sufficiently advanced system is indistinguishable from magic. Talking with the policymakers, talking with politicians, talking with the media, talking with users, becomes more and more the narrative that we hear about AI is very similar as the way that we talk about the weather. It happens to us. We don't really control the weather. The only thing we can do is try to make as good predictions as possible, and then make our decisions on whether we go to the beach or to take an umbrella based on those predictions that we can make about the weather. But AI is not the weather. AI is built by someone, something, some organization, according to choices that are made by those that build or that decide on the building of these systems. What are these choices? What are the values behind this choice? Who is deciding? Those are the questions that we need to start with when we talk about responsible AI. Yes, AI might look as magic to many of us, but we do need to create the understanding of how can we address this. And it is not by addressing it as magic, not addressing it as something like the weather, but really going behind the design, behind the development, and trying to govern and to discuss and to participate in the decisions that are made about this type of systems. And this is what many of us are calling the question zero. I hear a lot, and especially talking with politicians, the idea that the way forward is an AI-first way. Let's use AI. If we don't use AI, we are losing somewhere, and the best option that we have is to use AI. This is, I think, the most wrong direction that we can have. If we don't put people first, then we are just building AI for the sake of AI and not for the sake of ourselves. So the question we need to ask before anything is even built is ask the question, is AI the best option for whatever we are considering? What do we gain by implementing an AI solution, and what are we losing by implementing this AI solution? We need to start asking much more, why is it relevant? What kind of implications it has, before we start addressing the question of how can we build this type of systems. Moreover, AI is not just the computer, the programs or the software in your computer. AI is more and more a social technical system. It's not just about the program, not just about the technology, it's about the whole ecosystem of organizations, of people that develop, build, manage, govern, implement, deploy, and control all this type of systems. So it's much more than just the technology in itself. So when we talk about responsible AI, we need to be considering much more approaches and solutions that are based on social than just the technical solutions. Yes, we need to work on the technical solutions, we need to talk on the transparency, on the explainability, on all these type of properties of the systems themselves. But if we don't really address the way and the position of these systems in the ecosystem, then we are missing somewhere, because at the end of the day, the decisions and the choice are made by us. So the question is, and this is a question that often, and a lot of discussions go on, what is AI, what is not AI, what is the definition of AI, and even all around the AI Act discussions, there has been a lot of discussions about what is AI. If we think and understand that AI is something that we build, we design, we develop, then the question of what it is not as interesting as the question of what do we want it to be. We are building it, we are designing it, we are implementing it, so what do we want it to be? And here again, we have many questions that we need to address. The first one is, do we want these systems to be human-like? What does that mean? Is there a kind of an average human that is then what we measure the AI with? Do we want AI to be like me, to be like you, to be like that average human? And what are the characteristics of the system that we are considering when we talk about being human-like? Is it looking like a person in a kind of a robot or a virtual avatar? Is it speaking like a person? Is it reasoning like a person? What does it mean? And why is it relevant? And I'm not saying that it's not relevant to build systems that are in one or another way human-like, but we need to ask ourselves what does this human-likeness brings to the interaction and to the support and to the enhancement of human capabilities that we would not do by having systems that are not human-like. And a lot of the discussions in AI ethics and in responsible AI go around this topic, and then the decision or the answer is always, no, we don't want at all systems that are human-like, we want these systems to be tools. And by being tools, we put the system in the position where we would like the system to be. So great, we want to build tools. But again, here we have to ask ourselves, what is this tool for? What does this tool, who does this tool benefit? And what kind of affordance this tool provides to whom? I'm left-handed, and as left-handed, I cannot use scissors in the same way that right-handed people can use. So even a simple tool like scissors has benefits to many, but it doesn't really provide those benefits equally to everybody. So who is benefiting from these tools, and what do we want the tool to be doing? Then if we go further in this type of questions, another issue that we have to ask about is, what is the fundamental use of AI? Do we want AI to be a simulation of intelligence? And that is, by the way, the original meaning of the whole discipline of AI. When they started it in the 50s, the discussion was, we want to build models, computational models, mathematical models of intelligence, or of parts of intelligence, which would help us understand human intelligence by building that intelligence. So it was a simulation. Nowadays, we use these systems definitely, sometimes as simulations, but in most cases as really operational, taking concrete actions in the world, taking decisions about ourselves and supporting us taking those decisions. What we need from systems that operate in the world is not necessarily what we need from systems that simulate intelligence. So we do need to ask ourselves, where do we want to be in this spectrum? And finally, and maybe the most important, do we want AI to be normative or to be descriptive? And by this I mean, do we want AI to describe the world as the world is, with all the mistakes, all the bias, all the prejudices, all the faults that we make and that we have reproduced and that are reproduced in the data that we have? Or do we want AI to provide a better world? If we want AI to provide us a better world where there is no prejudice, there is no invasion of privacy, there is always explanations, there is justice and so on, who is going to decide what is these norms, these values that the AI systems are going to follow? So do we want AI to be as we are? Or do we want AI to do as we say that we would like to be, not prejudiced and not biased and nice to everybody and so on? And if we want AI to be as we say, to be better than what we are, who is going to decide what is that better? And do we trust those that are deciding what is better at this moment? Let's continue on what are the choices that we have. What kind of decisions? So these decisions make choices all the time. They choose which road you take to coming here. At least for me, coming from the hotel, I followed an AI system in a GPS which decided for me how to come here. They make decisions from the route that we take, to who gets a credit from the bank, who gets a subsidy from the government, what type of diagnostics the doctors are supporting diagnostic for medicine and so on. So which decisions we want these systems to make? Do we want the systems to just help us in our plans, like helping us to come from the hotel here? Or do we want the systems to help us with our intentions, like in the cartoon there? Do we want the system to tell us what we should do in terms of our own health and so on? And it's very easy to build that one. It's one of the easiest ones. You put a scale on the driver's seat and you have there a very simple rule. If the weight is more than so much, go to the gym. If the weight is less than so much, go to the McDonald's. Simplest. No, not even AI needed there. But is that what we want? I'm not saying we don't, but we need to ask ourselves, is this what we want? And if we have this, how do we are going to deal with the impositions that AI decides for our health, for our interactions, for our education, and so on? And then the other one, which is probably even more difficult, do we want AI systems to benefit each one of us? Do what is best for each one of us? Or do we want these systems to do what is best for all of us? What is good for me or for any of you is not necessarily what is good for all of us. How are we going to balance between collective and individual interests? And who is going to decide on that? And how are we going to verify and to demand accountability for this type of decisions? Those are questions that are actually very little asked in the whole field. And then we go more into this idea of AI ethics. AI systems, we would like them to be ethical. We don't really know how to be ethical ourselves, but these systems should be ethical. But what we mean by that, if we look at the space in which we make decisions, we can very roughly divide it along these three dimensions. There are decisions that are morally acceptable. There are decisions that are socially accepted, that we expect from each other. And there are decisions that are legally allowed. Unfortunately, these things are not aligned with each other. And you all can think about situations and decisions which are legally possible but not necessarily morally desirable and not always acceptable by us, or at least some combination of that. And the same for all the other quadrants in this space. And if we look about what used to be the case 200 years ago, slavery was morally accepted and legally allowed. Socially accepted and legally allowed. A couple of years ago, we would all be smoking in this room, and we would think that nothing about it. So things change as well, not only between each one of us, but between times and between cultures. Capital punishment disallowed in the United States, many states, and is something which we wouldn't consider in most European countries. So this is not just something that is fixed, but it's also changing all the time. So if you want AI to be ethical, where are we going to place the decision of the AI system in this complex space of decisions? And that comes with the other one, in which in most cases, we unfortunately cannot have it all. There are limits, especially resource limits, that forces us to take a choice, to make a trade-off between all the optimal decisions and optimal situations that we would like to have, and how are we going to align these principles, and how are we going to prioritize, and who is going to say that security is more relevant than freedom or justice. So in order to answer all these questions, we really need to get out of computer science. AI, like I said before, is not just about programming. We need to address all the consequences and the capabilities and impact of AI by combining the efforts from many, many disciplines. We cannot address all the questions that I have been asking ourselves just by programming it. Programming it might help, but it will not answer it all, and definitely will not support our capacity to decide and to reason and to take the responsibility for what needs to be done. I already talked about this question zero, the idea that we need to start, especially from a political or policy-based perspective, is not just about can we use AI, but much more about should we use AI. And these are decisions that we need to more and more ask from our politicians, from our governments, from our public service. Because otherwise, what we see in all the strategies that I have been reading in the last time is that they go for the idea, we are going to use AI. And I was in a meeting with the ministers of the Nordic countries recently, a couple of months ago, in which they all were rushing to the stage to say, by 2026, 80% of our civil employees are going to use AI. And then the next one would come, by 2027, 93% of our public servants are going to use AI. And they were really rushing to show, we are all going to use AI. When I asked them why, I think they wanted to send me out of the room, but that was not really exactly what the question about. So we really need to start asking why and should we be using AI, and not starting from the capabilities and from the potential that we can use AI. Using because we can is different than using it because we should. And the choices we make in AI impact the decisions and the society all after. By building bridges that don't allow buses to go to the beach, we are determined that only rich people can go to the beach, like there, the image in Brooklyn. By building park benches like this one, we are saying that homeless people cannot sleep on that bench. By building machines to pick up tomatoes, we are determined that some special races of tomatoes are going to be predominant because those are the ones which don't squish when the machine picks them up, so they are hard enough tomatoes to pick up with the machine. So the decisions we make in technology, be it simple technology like park benches or bridges, are political. And by being political means that we really need to understand the implications of what comes from it. What are the choices that we are making? How are we formulating and describing and discussing these choices? How much involvement are there of those that are making the choice? How legitimate is it that they are making this choice? And how are we going to combine all the different opinions that are about what kind of things and what type of designs we are making? The same with AI. The choices we make today are going to determine our societies for the time being. And why should we care then about responsible AI? Just to put it a bit summary, and before we go into the governance of these systems, reality is more than data. Not all what is part of reality is or can ever be represented in data. The choices we make of the data sets that we are collecting and constructing determine that some things will be out of that data. And by increasingly focusing on the data, we risk to be very rich on data, but less and less, or more and more poor on insights. Who is developing these systems? Unfortunately, I don't really need to tell you who is doing it, but how they are deciding, who is involved, what are the values that they are making there, and not even going into the private public sector. We also see that the very skewed representation of humanity and humankind in those that are building these systems. Some genders are much more represented than others, and some demographics are much more represented than others. And finally, we already talked about the computational costs or the physical costs of AI, but increasingly we are seeing the human and social costs of AI. I visited recently some place in India that looked like that, which people are day and night looking at the data and curating the data and the image that we see, literally day and night, because the ones you see, they are working, and underneath their desks, there are other ones sleeping. These are the people that make possible that we play with ChatGPT and make fun about the crazy things that come out of this type of systems. Those systems don't work with people like that. And these costs we cannot ignore. So let's talk about governance. How are we going about? It's great to understand we need to be responsible and that all this responsibility is very important, but how can we do it? And I think the why we already talked about. I could go about all these things, but let's make it simpler. We use cars because we know these cars have brakes. We use cars because we know the cars have seat belts, have airbags, and so on. All these things, the seat belts, the airbags, and so on, don't really contribute to the function of the car. But without them, we would not really be as safe using them as we are today. With AI, we can compare it very roughly and very black and white to a car which has no brakes, no seat belts, no airbags, is being driven by someone without a driver's license, and is going down a road with no traffic signs. No one would like to be there. And if we don't make the rules, we also cannot really decide on what is right, what is wrong. There is no way to look at it. And by having the rules, we also have a lot of peace of mind. None of us would want to go into the road and deciding every morning, shall I go drive in the right or in the left of the road? If we all were making these decisions ourselves, we would not go very far, probably. So we need something to govern it. Not necessarily laws set in stone like we are trying to do it here in Europe. There are many options, but we need to do it. And it starts by understanding what are the principles that we would like to have to govern this type of systems. And in the last 10 years, there has been a huge movement on developing principles and guidelines for AI. The ones down are some of the ones I have been more or less directly involved. But if you look at it, there are at this moment over 1,000 somewhere guidelines to tell you what AI should be doing. From global, from regional, from countries, from NGOs, you name it, everybody has some guidelines or principles for AI. Great, at least we all recognize that it's important to have these principles. Also, if you look at those principles, they are not so different from each other. They all talk about transparency, about diversity, although nowadays some countries have forgotten that, but we don't go there. About accountability, about justice, about human rights. So we are all talking more or less about the same thing, with different priorities, with different meanings, but in one end, they are all kind of similar. And they are similar because they are very abstract. It's very easy to say we want AI to be fair. And everybody here would agree, yes, we want AI to be fair. But what do we mean by AI being fair? How are we going to build systems that we can guarantee that they are fair? And how can we verify that any system in the world is indeed fair? Those are the hard questions, and those are the questions that are actually not being described in this type of documents, which doesn't mean that they are not important, and we can maybe probably forget a bit making even more, but they are relevant as a shared understanding that we need to move forward by having some way to govern and to provide the basic principles for how these systems should impact our lives. And with the idea that by doing so, we will be safeguarding democracy because we will have some ways to have oversight over the system, that we will need to do it by promoting public participation, and also to do that, we really need to get to a place, a situation in which we all, in the discussion, understand what we are talking about, have a minimum understanding of what AI is, what AI is not, what can we do with AI, and what can we not do with AI. We also want that these systems and these principles provide us some guards or some ways to safeguard the planet. We already looked at all the enormous impact that AI can have in the planet, in society, in the environment. So we need to have these guidelines as a kind of a guarantee that we can address the impact on environment and on the planet and society in general. And we do that in many different ways. One of the ways that we hear again and again here in Europe is regulation or legislation. We make laws that are going to give us the guarantees that these principles are implemented. And that is, for what most of you have heard, the AI Act, which has been approved by the European Union last year, is supposed to start being implemented around now. I'm not really sure if they are changing the date or not. There is a lot of discussion on whether or not they are going to extend the start of the implementation. It provides human-centered, so the idea that AI is here to support us and not just by itself, for the benefit of itself, and it provides a risk-based approach. It has become, putting it like this, it seems simple and desirable and obvious. It has become a very complex piece of legislation. And by making it so complex, it also comes with problems about how are we going to really create the means to implement it. I'm not really going into a discussion of the AI Act here. I'm happy to discuss if anyone is interested on that when we go to the drinks. But just to show, legislation or regulation is one possible way to address governance. But it's not the only one, and it's one that doesn't really work by itself. We need more to it. So we need to look at issues of standards. Standards are soft governance, so that no one forces you to follow a standard, but it is very useful to follow the standard. The standard helps you to limit your liability. You follow the standard, so therefore you did it right, and also provides a good way to build systems that can be integrated with other systems. Standards can be combined with legislation, but in many cases they stand by themselves. And they are useful and important to follow in any case. Other ways to look at how are we going to operationalize this all is looking at the organization structures, the procedures that we have there. Do we have in organizations, in governments, in civil service, the possibility for having people that ensure that the processes are indeed and the systems are indeed developed and acquired and implemented in the ways that we consider responsible? Are there ethics officers, AI boards? Are there anyone that is setting the guidelines internally? Is there a way to complain about what these systems did and that someone answers to it? So all of it needs to be put into place. At the same time, we need to be providing all these organizations and the developers more and more support for them to understand and to be able to build this AI that is trustworthy in a responsible way. And of course, to do this all, again, it goes back to the issue of education and training. Responsible AI is more than ethics. There is a lot of philosophy going around about ethics. There is a lot of discussions of trolley problems, whether AI self-driving cars should or not drive over the old lady or the chicken. There are all kinds of issues about the philosophy of it, which is important and really provides us a ground to understand all types of consequences. But ethics at the end of the day is not about the solution. Is about understanding that we need to address the issue as an issue that has a moral impact. And that is more important than having systems that guarantee a right ethical answer. It is also not about what I call the technification of ethics. There is a lot of work done in computer science, very relevant work in one end, but in other hand, also trying to find the solution for transparency, for fairness, for bias. And this thing is falling down, sorry. Anyway, if you are still hearing me, then we should be okay. Okay, I hope it's okay. Does the sound okay? Yeah, good. Sorry, I'm moving too much, I think. Anyway, we can provide implementations of ethical principles, transparency, privacy, fairness, justice, and so on, but those always are interpretations of these concepts in a very specific context. And by doing that, we are able then to indeed formalize the whole thing and provide implementation. But we need to be very careful on understanding what is this context, where does this implementation hold and where it doesn't hold. Sorry, I don't know what's happening. Good. Fundamentally, is about making choices and understanding the choices that we are making. Is about deciding how much accuracy is important and how much computational resources go into that accuracy. If I want to improve the accuracy of my algorithm with 5%, is that worth to use 20% more computational power or computational resources? In some cases it might be, but if what I'm working on is an algorithm that provides you a better suggestion for Netflix tonight, maybe you don't really need to use those computational resources to get more accuracy. Do we want systems to be of long-term benefit or of short-term benefit? Do we want to balance, or how do we balance between equity and equality? Those are all choices that need to be made. And at the end of the day, responsible AI is about making those choices, because this choice needs to be made in any case, and staying at the level of discussing the ethics doesn't really makes us move into the direction of really making the choices, and making the choices in a way that it's understandable, verifiable, participatory, and addressing all different types of concerns and difference between stakeholders. So it's about being explicit, understanding that the values that we pick up, these very high-level values, are necessarily being interpreted in a specific context and then are concretized or operationalized in the specific functionalities of the systems. We also need to understand that responsible AI is not a check at the end of the whole process, but really needs to be integrated in the whole life cycle of the development, use, and analysis of the AI implementation and AI integration in a specific context. So we might need to look at AI with another paradigm, a paradigm that understands that AI is not the solution to all our problems, that we need really to understand when and how to, and when should we use it and how to use it. It addresses all these inherent risks of bias and discrimination, understanding that we cannot do it just from the perspective of one discipline, and with that, with providing robust standards that enable us to verify and to verify the solutions and the proposals that we are making, see how sustainable they are, and do this in a participatory way. So I'm going to finish with the ever-present discussion between responsibility versus innovation. And we hear again and again that efforts towards responsibility, towards governance, towards regulation are very important, but at the end of the day, we want innovation. Innovation is about all these type of issues. Innovation is not just about technical improvements. Is about societal improvements, is about organizational improvements, is about governance, is about regulation. In all these fields, in all these directions, we can and should innovate. And by creating some principles and guidelines to how to innovate, we are not restricting innovation necessarily, we are providing the stepping stones that we really need for innovation. Because at the end of the day, responsible AI is not a choice. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think we have now time for questions, and there will be people with microphones going around the room. Unfortunately, for those online, I believe that there is no possibility for you to ask directly questions. If you have any questions, please contact me by email or social media or any other way. But in the room, if there are any questions, I see here Albrecht, and one more here. They are here in front. And one there. Okay, I start with Albrecht, and then we go to that side to make it a bit diversified.
Thank you very much. I think quite inspiring. I want to challenge one of your first points. I think what I really like is sort of AI does not happen. AI, we design it. But there comes something with it. Looking around this room, knowing Munich, knowing the number of people who are in a position to build AI is really small. Looking at companies like Google, Meta, it's a really small set of people who can build it. And is it not naive to say, we can regulate it if we cannot build it? So my take is, we have to be in a position to build it and not just to regulate it. If we cannot build it, we will not make the choices. Other people will make the choices for us. We have to invest in social media, with search engines. In Europe, we cannot build it. And so the others made a choice, and we are left with a binary choice. Do I want a search engine? Yes, I take it. Or no, I don't take it. Do I want to have social media? So what is your take in basically this? I completely get the rest, but I think this technology is a prerequisite to make choices. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your question. Very important and very relevant topic. Yes, if we don't, like I said, the responsibility, the ethics, the regulation cannot be just at the end of the process. It is, like I think I went quick through it, it really needs to be integral part of the whole process, starting with the question zero, before we even build anything, to the last step in which we decide whether or not to deploy it. If we are not able to participate in all these steps, then indeed we are, like you say, left with the only thing to decide we take it or leave it, basically. So we do need, especially here in Europe, and again, regulation cannot be a replacement for development, cannot be a replacement for implementation, for research, and so on. We do need to look at it much broader, and if we are not able to really provide the alternatives, we are at the end of the day losing our sovereignty, which we already in many cases, from social media to email browsers or whatever else, we hardly have any choice than taking what is given to us by the large companies in the United States. So we are losing sovereignty. And by regulating more and focusing the regulation at the end of the process, we are creating an even larger dependency outside. So the whole effort on regulation is important, is relevant, is a very necessary contribution for the landscape of AI development and use, but it cannot be the only thing that we do in Europe. We really need to, and we tend to look at regulation always from the prohibition side. It comes a law that says we cannot do this. And that is, unfortunately, how many laws are developed. But we can as well, and we need to more and more, and many of us are talking about that with the European Union as well, to look at regulation and the legislation from an incentive perspective, creating the opportunities and capabilities for all of us in Europe to build the systems that we can then show, look, this is an alternative to the systems that we build that are coming from outside of Europe. I used to talk about the idea of free-range eggs in AI. We used to have only one type of eggs in the supermarket. Now if you go to the supermarket, you have a million choices about eggs that are free-range or maize-fed or happy chickens or I don't know what. There are a million types of eggs. At this moment, what we are doing in Europe, we are saying that the battery created eggs that come from the United States are no good and we want to regulate them, but we are not providing the alternatives for all of us to come up with all the different opportunities in eggs that we could do. So we need to invest much more on the free range and the free trade and whatever things in AI as we have done in other sectors. I went too long, sorry. There was a question in that side and I will try, and then I see there are some questions here as well. Just to make it a bit.
Hey, hello. Thanks for the talk, as usual. I'm interested in the first part of your title, like the ethics. So basically, we've got like some classical schools beginning from virtue ethics with Aristotle, then you've got like Kant with the deontological ethics, or more recent, like in the 19th century with utilitarianism. What do you think, which of these frameworks is the best tool like to judge or assess ethics in AI, or even better, like to teach a system how to behave ethically?
None, to be quick. I don't think that, as we know, there are indeed many alternative ethical theories. All of them come with different results. If you take a utilitarian view, you will promote or be more looking at specific types of solutions. If you take a deontological or a virtues or a human rights, you always are left with a potential different type of solution. So none of those systems gives you the universal right solution in all types of problems and all types of issues. We all change from a deontological view in some situations to a utilitarian one, to a virtuous one as we go through the day. To hope or to expect that we are going to build a system that is going to follow one of these theories and be right forever and in all situations is as unrealistic as hoping that we all will be magically turned into fully ethical entities. So what we need to do is much more to understand the limitations of each of these types of ethical theories, and to understand that any solution or any implementation of one of these ethical theories comes with choice, comes with options, and comes with different results depending on the context.
Thanks again for the excellent talk. This was really a lot to think about. I'm still thinking about what you said about the Nordic policymaker. We're using AI 80%, 90%, 95%, whatever. What would be a better answer? I think some of us here are advising governments, university leadership and such. What would be a better answer for policymakers on the use of AI?
I think it starts not with an answer, starts with the question, why? Why do you want 90% of your civil servants to use AI by 2027? What are they going to do with it? What is going to happen? What is it that going to solve? And more importantly, what are you going to lose by implementing such a 90% AI, public servants using AI by 2027 or whatever it is? And those are the questions that I cannot answer for you, but that are at the end of the day really the basis for all the consequences of the use of AI within your institutions and organizations. Again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't use AI. I'm also not saying that having 90% of civil servants using AI in 2027 is not a potentially relevant way to go. But if we don't know why, if it's just because AI is there and everybody is using AI, so we also have to use AI, we are not really addressing the fundamental issues that we need to address. And we are not really understanding what are the consequences and also what are we going to lose, or what are we maybe jobs are going to be lost because then we need less civil servants. Maybe some opportunities or some very specific groups will not be served in the same way as others. So what are we going to lose? And we need to start with the question why and not the answer. There was a question. Okay, one there and then one more here.
Yes, thank you, Professor, for this inspiring lecture. I actually based a lot of my master thesis on your work. So
thank you.
Thank you. And I mean, I tend to agree with a lot of the things that you said. And I also work in responsible AI. And I always wonder how we can incentivize responsible innovation processes beyond regulation, because a lot of the things that you also talked about, how we can make responsible AI, how we can democratize the development process and so on, are not necessarily incentivized in the economic system that we are operating in. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. So maybe you can share some ideas.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your question. If we are waiting for regulation to solve our problems, it's the same as waiting for AI to solve our problems. It will not happen. So we need to be more, not so dependent on what the regulation is that it's coming, but if you are an organization or a company or a startup that are really considering developing one or another type of solution within the whole spectrum that we nowadays call AI, I would, like I just said about eggs, look at what are alternatives in other sectors. How fair trade solutions have had some beneficial and profitable implementations. How organic agriculture or free-range eggs have led to alternatives that are not just ethical or responsible, but also profitable. So what are the kind of principles that you as an organization or a company or a startup really care about, and how do you want to implement that on the solutions that you build? And I would hope that what any one of us cares about is more than just the direct profit without really looking at further consequences than the next 3 months of the shareholder profit, which is unfortunately what leads many of the very large companies. Was there? Okay, and then here in front. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation. I think you might have thought or wondered about this before. If you could implement a specific policy on a high level, like say EU AI Act or something like that, what would you think is the most important thing we need to regulate next?
Very good question. I think the most important thing that we need to regulate or to govern is the responsibility for the consequences of the systems that we are implementing. To agree, maybe not by putting a lot of laws and problems and consequences, but really thinking about how can we guarantee that whatever solution is putting out, in whatever way, comes with responsibility and with processes which can be put in place once those, preferably before, and checking what potential consequences are, but definitely trying to limit the impact once things go potentially wrong. So implementing AI with the brakes that it needs to be put in place when things are developing wrong. And these brakes don't need to be technical, but need necessarily to be societal or organizational. So if I cannot put the brakes in my black box, then I have to put the brakes somewhere in my organization if I'm going to use this black box.
Thank you again for the great presentation. It was a pleasure to follow all of your thoughts on the different things. I want to come back to one question that we briefly touched on, okay, building AI ourselves, and then you had a very nice picture on how different countries participate with data, right? Mm-hmm. And when we talk about responsible AI, then we think like, for whom are we developing this? It's the humans in the loop, right? I mean, if we look at currently which AI models are used, it's primarily in education or informal learning settings, so everybody basically uses the models. So one thing that might be interesting is just a piece of thought, like how to maybe contribute to this policy making so that we as Europeans contribute also with data. So far, the regulation has hit us very early. So when whoever works in data with humans has to go into collaborations with the US or with Asia to be able to run studies. So we've lost a lot of participation in the large conferences and in the research community with data. Yeah. So I think like a lot of colleagues feel the same way. So is there something maybe that you think could be changed in the current regulations to allow us to basically to allow us to be contributing again, and then maybe to better AI because we are participating with our data as well?
Thank you. I don't know if I have the answer, and definitely I'm not in place or in position to make anything happen about it. But one of the figures I had was that one in which we have to make a choice between privacy and security, with those words that need to be taken from each other. In Europe, very often we tend to be very stubborn and very one one question, one topic. And we did that with GDPR, in which privacy was above and is above anything else. And by doing that, we are giving privacy the importance it deserves. But at the same time, we are taking away other types of principles or values that might be as important. So we need to be too much one-directional, and I think that regulation needs to be more multi-directional. It's not just about privacy above everything. And again, it is important that we have the basis for privacy and guarantee that privacy of personal data is guaranteed. But that doesn't mean that we have to limit completely all types of data sets or of research directions and so on. So we need to be much more willing to give and take in different types, and making that maybe more contextual, more specific for a certain application or a certain type of research, because indeed otherwise we are kind of limiting ourselves too much. But it's easy to say that, and I think it's much more difficult for the policymakers to listen and to implement it as well. Sure. I don't know, if someone has time control, I'm happy to be here and to answer all the questions, but I don't know what is the guardian of the time, please.
Can do is 3 questions.
3 questions, okay, good, then we know.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Thank you very much for your presentation, which is not very common because most of the presentations concerning this topic is technical oriented. My question is, regulation is nothing new. We have many areas where we have regulations. Let's take, for example, automobiles. You have a regulation framework concerning exhaust gas, noise, etc. Then you build your cars or design your cars, and then the cars behave in compliance with these regulations. If we compare, because it is a static system, a static product. If we go to AI, we can have a regulation, but this AI system is learning, and it is learning like human beings as well, that it is sometimes of advantage to go around these regulations and so on. So how can we make sure that if we have regulations for AI, whatever this means, that the AI is not, as a dynamic system, learning how to go around?
The most regulations that we have, as far as I know, are about ourselves, are the laws that govern our behavior, our capabilities, our possibilities, and so on. We break those laws every day of our lives. I don't know how many traffic lights I walked through red coming from the hotel here. We do these things all the time, knowing that we are breaking the law. We are learning, and being in Munich not so often, and I really have to learn, is this a city in which it's okay to cross with the red light? It's probably much less than in Amsterdam, where I was coming from, but it's definitely much more than any city in Sweden where you will stay nicely at the red until, even if there are no cars around. Anyway, we learn that every day. So an AI system, in a sense, we have to look at regulating AI systems a bit as we are regulating ourselves. I'm not saying that AI systems need to be comparable to us in front of the law, definitely not. But the way that we regulate these systems needs to be much more looking at the way that we regulate ourselves, knowing that we are always trying to find out the way to go around the laws. And I'm originally from Portugal, in which I think that we made that a kind of national sport. But, and if we learn, and there is a lot of studies about this, so we need to be more flexible also in the way that we develop laws for AI. Which means that we need also to be more flexible in the way that we build laws. We tend to see law as something that once is out, it is fixed in stone. And once it's there, then it's in stone, and there is no way to change it. In the same way that we develop technology with different versions and beta versions and testing, and we need to look at developing law a bit more like that, so that once it is really implemented, we have tried it out and find out where are going people or AI systems going to go across the red light in the street. Yeah, here and you. Well, okay.
So Virginia, thank you very much. Actually, I'm also another fan of you, and use my research a lot of your research.
Thank you.
And I'm trying to connect actually all the questions that we collected, and it's the second time I hear this. Legislation is not the only one, and that need to be, let's say, influencing actually this responsible AI. And I see this triangulation basically on one side, the regulation that we have already. So basically, and it does not look it's going to change. So basically, it's already there to stay. Many people supporting it. Also, we have standards, which basically we are already, a little bit running late, but we are there. And I see hundreds and hundreds of people from Dean, from ISO, Sentinel Lake, that they are already building something. So that's basically, they are already there. And actually from our last paper that we published last week is also corporates and companies, they are already implementing this. And we see that the AI Act is not that far in terms of the delta that they need to build. And they have some practices in MLOps. They have some biases already. Of course, it's a balance of building it. And it's a third point, basically, on the example that you use for the cars. And here in Bavaria, people love to use example of cars manufacture. So I will use in terms of maybe we don't want to have cars without brakes here. And we are already using tiny ChatGPT cars that they're like braking, not working 5% or more. And there was a study basically in Umeå University a couple of years ago where they were saying like, maybe there is some time that basically we can build this not trustworthy AI. So basically we build it trustworthy, but based on us and our decision, we can choose not to buy free range X or to buy free range X, and also to say we don't want this car without brakes. So my question to you is basically, is that the time, or there is a balance in between innovation, usage of AI, and responsible AI within trustworthy and trusting it? Do you think it's now the time to untrust trustworthy AI? Or when do you think is the time? That's the question. Sorry.
Thank you. It's a lot to think about. Firstly, having regulations or laws is not a replacement for our own responsibility. But we only can be responsible or taking the decisions of buying free-range eggs or cars with or without brakes if we have a minimum of education and understanding about the situation. So I think that in order to be able to talk about reasoning on the trustworthy or of the systems or not, we need at this moment to mostly invest on education and awareness of the field for everybody. So we need to provide a minimum understanding of what AI can or cannot do to the whole population, because otherwise we cannot really expect or help them to take this type of decisions. And at the end of the day, it is up to all of us, the responsibility to buy or not the free-range eggs. But if we don't know what is the difference, we are not really, cannot be held accountable for the choices that we make. So education is the one we need to work on. Yes.
Thank you very much, Virginia, for the very inspiring talk and presentation. So one central question in your talk was basically who gets to decide, right? And that leads me to the question, do we have the right governance structure in Europe or structures in Europe? And if not, what does need to change or what needs to be different?
Do we have the right governance structures? We have lots of governance structures. We are maybe a bit over-governed, but I think it goes back again to the previous question. The answer is education. We might have the right governance structures, but we don't have enough understanding of AI by those in those governance structures. And there is, I think, that a lot of things go wrong. Those ministers that I talk about, I don't think that they were meaning anything bad or wrong with the decisions of having civil servants using AI. It's just that they didn't have enough understanding of what the consequences and the issues are. So again, it's not so much in terms of the governance structures, but it's the combination of the knowledge and the understanding that is needed with those governance structures. So, thank you very much. Thank you so much. Wow, very nice. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
that's
Virginia.
That's a lovely one. Thank you.
That's a lovely one. That's
wow.
the greetings from Biosphere, the greetings
nice.
from Bavaria. So
Thank you so much.
You got to wear it like this.
Oh, wow. Oops, it goes wrong with my microphone.
Oh, yeah. No,
sorry. Yeah.
Can I help?
Yeah.
We have to take the microphone out.
Yeah. No, it doesn't work with the mic.
And I put this card in here with the Biosphere.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you all.
Thanks for the discussion. Thank you. Well, I have a few closing announcements. I'm still flashed by the talk and by all the answers not given, but a very good inspiration to keep asking questions and to continue with the discussions here. And I learned that AI is not just happening and not just happening somewhere, but it's what we do here, what we act here, what we discuss here, what we have on the technological side, but also on the societal and moral side, so ethical side. Very good. This was not the last Munich AI lecture. There will be more to come. I think you can scan the QR code. The next session will already be next week on July the 17th. Professor Guido Montufar from UCLA, he's also a Max Planck Fellow. He will speak on the theory behind deep learning. This is happening at LMU. You find the location once you follow the instructions here on the code. And in October, we will have an online Munich AI lecture with Joshua Benjo. And he will speak about the future of AI and the technological and the political challenges behind it. So, very nice program. Stay tuned. There will be more coming even in the next year. And the last announcement is on the upcoming second Bavarian AI conference, the Biosphere and DLD Future. Oh, I always confuse with the name, Future Hub AI. So this will be the second Bavarian AI conference taking place at America House in Munich on the 10th and 11th of September. We are very happy to match the networks of Biosphere of Bavaria with the excellent international tech networks of Burda DLD, and this is a very warm invitation for you to come. We will have especially discounted tickets for all of you, especially in academia. Students are almost free, so a very, very nice place and opportunity to connect and see each other again. Thanks so much. Also a goodbye to the online listeners and watchers. It was good to have you there. And for all of those who are here, you can enjoy the receptions that we have prepared. On the way out here, you have the library, and I'm sure you've seen the glasses and food there. So kind invitation to join us, to join Virginia. I hope you can stay for a while. And thanks again, Virginia, for coming, Jerzy for introducing her, and all of you for organizing it and attending this beautiful event this evening. Thank you so much.